Okay. Oh, are you able to hear my voice? I definitely cannot hear you. Let me see. Oh, hello. Welcome, Matt. Good to see you.
Hey Rico, how's it going?
Good, good. All right. We have two voices. I can
Yeah.
see Kyoko.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you and hear you. I can
Excellent.
see Kyoko. Waiting to see if I can hear her. We're not getting any volume out of Kyoko. And let me see. Okay, if Frank joins us, Frank will be late, and I don't think Jessica is going to be joining us. So it might
Okay.
be the three of us. And we might be having to do sign language with the Kyoko. I had this problem yesterday, and I'm trying to remember what I did. I know there's some sort of weird setting thing.
Hmm.
Let's see. Right, if anybody knows anything about the settings on this, by all means, jump in.
This is my first Google Hangout.
Mine. And the problem was that my default microphone wasn't the one that was active.
Oh.
So I had to actually tell it, use the microphone I'm speaking into. And once I did that, everything was fine. I was trying to remember how I got to that screen. So yeah. Pardon me. Yeah, her microphone's not coming in at all for some reason.
Yeah, the little mute icon on yours just showed up and then disappeared again.
Yeah, I muted myself. I was hoping I could find something that can mute her. Can you just do me a favor? Just move your mouse around your screen, Matt, and see if you find an icon that says settings somewhere.
La, la, la. Mute microphone, turn camera off, adjust bandwidth usage settings. Microphone, default, built-in microphone, built-in input.
There we go. Do you hear that, Kyoko? Click the gear settings at the top of your screen, and you'll have a selection of microphones. Try different selections and see if that gets you talking. Okay, so Kyoko, you can open the chat. You should have the chat on you. On your left hand side of your screen, like the second blue square, would be a chat icon.
Ooh, look at that.
Okay, I know we're communicating. Okay, so Matt found the chat.
Now, when this goes live on YouTube, will the chat log
I
be
don't
there
think
as well?
I'll be honest. I haven't watched the entire 10 minutes that Frank and I were messing around yesterday.
Okay.
But I promise you, Kyoko, the first 5 minutes where it was Frank staring at me, I can't hear you. Why don't you say anything?
I'm just gonna spend like the whole time we're video talking. I'm gonna be writing dirty limericks in the chat log.
Just go for it.
Sure.
And if I need to edit it out, I will later. I think there's actually something that says like I have to switch the preferences to allow 18-year-olds and younger to join.
Oh wow. So it's default without that. That's cool.
Okay. So I think Kyoka's still there. She just doesn't want us looking at her for some reason. This is what. Did I miss her? Did I lose her? No. Okay. Well, what are you seeing on the screen right now, Matt?
Okay, so I've got the majority of the screen is your face, cut off at the chin. By the way, you might want to tilt your monitor a little. or your webcam. Perfect. That's ideal. And then in the bottom little thing, I've got a little window of myself, a window that says Rico, but it's a black square, and then a little square with Kyoko's user profile picture. A woman lying down with a dog under her. Something like that.
But I forget exactly. She'll explain later, I'm sure.
But earlier...
picture of the Galapagos Islands, right, Kyoko? If I click that, are you the main picture on the screen now, or is it still just me?
It's still you. I can pick who's who by clicking on the little pictures on the bottom. And, yeah, my webcam looks really fuzzy when I make myself big. But, oh, now Kyoko's gone.
That's Kyoko. That's fine. That's one of the things I need to figure out is how to take control of the screen.
What year was Kyoko? She was Swing, right?
She was Gompers.
Gompers?
She was my high school.
Oh! Okay, that would be why I don't remember her. I was trying to be all PC. It's like, where was she? I don't remember. Okay. So I've never met her. Okay. Makes sense. Wait, you're from San Diego, right, originally?
Correct.
Okay. There she is.
Here goes back. Any luck, Kyoko?
Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Yes.
We got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to switch computers. I was on my tablet, and it doesn't have all the same icons and stuff, so yeah,
Gotcha.
sorry about that.
Gotcha. Yeah, in theory I could do this on my phone, but I figured I'd try to do it this way first. Okay, well, welcome. Welcome to 5 Minutes of Science. One of the first things is we can change that name any means, if you know any better ideas. Really, to introduce you guys, first I want to take control of the camera, which I don't think I can yet. I'm looking at Kyoko on my main screen. Anyone else doing that, or just me?
I have Kyoko on my main screen.
Oh, I have you, Rico.
Okay. I'm going to assume that what I'm doing is what's being recorded. So, whatever you see, don't worry about it. Apparently, I'm in control of what's being recorded.
We have complete confidence in your control, Rico.
Excellent, excellent. By the way, you do know I'm recording this, and for at least a little while, while I'm trying to edit it, it's going to be on YouTube. It won't be publicly listed, but that's the default Google storage place until I figure out what I'm doing.
Okay.
So, to introduce you all, Matt, this is Kyoko Gotanda. She went to school at Gompers, San Diego, so don't feel bad that you don't recognize her from Penn.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm very afraid I don't have your bios in front of me. I'm never sure. Should I lead with researcher or with ballet? What do you do when you introduce yourselves?
Well, primarily right now I'm obviously a researcher. I'm retired from ballet for quite some time now, so.
What a coincidence. Matt is retired from researching. Matt is a researcher turned science fiction writer.
That's me.
We're all eager to hear what he comes up with.
So am I.
Oh, come on, you told me you had at least like half a dozen sentences started, right?
Oh yeah. I've got like a half a dozen stories started. I just don't have any finished yet.
All right, well, okay, so if you eagerly await those, I'll be happy to link those to the whatever web show we do.
Excellent. I'm going to step away for just a minute. My cats are fighting each other. I have to go kill them. Hang on.
That's why I had to go take care of my three-year-old. He's all good. So how have you been?
I'm good. How are you? Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm curious. Did you ever get my email when you were at the was it Montreal Ballet?
Did you send it to the company?
I did.
They are not that technically apt, so I don't remember getting one from you.
I don't feel bad. I'm just curious if you ever reached that. I was kind of at a point in my life like, wow, nothing's turned out so far. It's really nice to see that you're doing ballet. So that was really the content of the email.
Oh, okay.
I want to say like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I left in 2004, so 10 years ago I left the company.
Yeah, that's why I decided to go to law school. So it's kind of a place where I was like, okay, what would make me happy? And I happen to see you doing something that I assumed was your dream at the time, which is always awesome to see.
Yeah, I was very lucky to have that career.
Excellent. All right, you back with us, Matt?
Yes, I am back.
That's all sorted. Not a problem.
Yep.
Okay, so just agenda-wise, we started with mission statement. The first germ in my head was that I'm really looking to aim something towards teens that tells them, like, look, yes, athletes are appreciated, but so are scientists. That's not just a valuable career, but something that people appreciate. That's a productive contribution. That, scientists are cool, for lack of a less cheesy way to put it.
Wait, if scientists are cool is the message you want to send, are you sure you, me, and Frank are the people you want on the panel?
We'll get to casting later.
Okay.
Your notice is taken. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
But off the top, I mean, so what I'm thinking right now is one, a couple segments. Is one that we really just kind of talk about news of the day, focusing more on the scientists, not just the developments,
Sure.
but saying, look, these are the people that are changing our lives.
Sounds good to me.
And to be that person, this is what you need to do. You have to be a scientist. You have to do STEM. You have to, perhaps put away your. I'm not going to say it explicitly, but just show that there's other options besides, writing a one-hit wonder to to becoming someone that's appreciated and valued in the society. Maybe you come up with a vaccine instead of a sex tape. That kind of thing really is what I'm pushing for.
Sure.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that particular topic?
Kyoko, you first, or I don't know.
Sure. Rico, you got the resources I sent. There's a lot of social media that has a lot of really nice outreach stuff already.
Yeah, I did see, especially about the interviewing the scientists directly, and I haven't seen a lot of those interviews myself. I don't know if you have. Have you?
Yeah, there's one called Breaking Bio, and I think they have a weekly chat, one-on-one chat with a scientist, and an interview process, and they talk about their science. And I haven't seen any, but I think they also talk about how they got into science. But they're much longer. They're, I think, half an hour or longer.
Okay,
But,
that's something I'll definitely look at. I haven't looked at it either. As you can imagine, my life's a little bit of controlled chaos, just trying to fit in every project. I like the idea. My concern was that, like I said, I'm trying to aim more towards teens, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, but someone's really that at a point in their life that they're looking for role models and trying to decide which path they want to go on. And I don't know that they're going to sit down for half an hour to get to know a scientist.
Yeah.
So that's really the only reason I'm pushing like 5. By the way, I've reserved 5, 10, 20, all the way to an hour. So we can change names. We can go something else completely different. But that's why I'm trying to look more like a. I think I had described it originally to y'all. It was an ESPN type of thing, where like, okay, here's this week's headlines, here's this week's highlights, here's who's important in science this week. Which, in the end, I think is probably a little too shallow to really get to where I want to go. But the point is, I need to figure out. I'm trying to figure out a way to engage, basically a YouTube audience that probably doesn't have an attention span longer than 5, 10 minutes.
Right.
Really not on a weekly basis, I don't think.
One thing I would like to keep in mind, or at least just to point out, personally, I feel like I still have the mindset that I'm just out of college. I'm still 25, but I'm going to be 40 soon. And thinking about that, when we were teenagers, what 40-year-olds were we going to pay attention to? Especially 40-year-olds trying to say, "Hey, kids, this thing's cool." That wouldn't have flown.
Well, that's exactly it. That's why I'm not trying to say it specifically. I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to say if let's just show them like us appreciating the scientists.
Exactly.
And let them just kind of sit there and see that scientists are appreciated.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's kind of the. That's why I'm trying to go to that ESPN Sports Center model, because like I know people will sit there and gobble that crap up.
Right. Yeah. I've actually never seen Sports Center, so But yeah.
Have a 2-minute countdown on the screen, because that's all they're going to vote to a topic.
Wow. Okay.
And 2 minutes of saying like why this quarterback is the most important thing in the universe, and then 2 minutes of why this soccer player is the most important thing in the World Cup for that week.
Yeah, I like this idea because definitely one thing that's I think that teenagers need to understand is they need to understand that scientists are not white-haired guys in lab coats working at a bench. Like science is so much more than that, and scientists are so much more than that. And there's just still this perpetuation of this myth of some gray-haired guy in a lab coat squirreled away in his lab.
Right.
And that's not it at all. Like a lot of people are really surprised by like the field, like what I do, field biology, where we get to go out and get dirty and like handle animals and stuff, and they're like, oh wow, that sounds really cool. So I like this idea of just sort of opening up the what science is and what it encompasses.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And part of my thinking then is it worth focusing on achievements, or not even just bios, but more. I don't know. You guys ever see Dirty Jobs? There's one of those documentary reality TV shows. You ever see it?
Yeah.
So maybe something like that, where we just like look at the different kinds of scientists. I mean, maybe that's a direction we can go in. Like, we just pick a representative and say, okay, tell us about your job or something.
I mean, we can do a wide array of things, and I mean, some of it would be, here's these particular scientists and how they got into science, or here's some great achievements. But also, it could be, this is what a scientist actually does every day, or day in and day out. It's not all bubbling beakers of multicolored liquids. In fact, none of it is that. But it's not all white-haired guys in lab coats shouting out Eureka or I've done it. It's a whole lot of different people tearing their hair out saying I need coffee and why isn't my data working?
Sure. Kind of along those lines, do we want to look at classical scientists at all? Is it worth having a segment of White Tesla's a god among geeks?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so if you throw in a few old-timey guys,
and people that maybe haven't gotten the world-renowned recognition they might have deserved because, look, this guy did something really flippin' cool that has a huge effect on our lives, and you don't know his name. And, let's get to know some of these people. Nothing in depth like an A&E, this is biography. The
for example, I want to say an example. I literally cannot come up with the name of the guy who invented the television.
Invented the what?
A television. Westinghouse bought the patent off him for $20. They never heard from him again. But
right.
But clearly, he made a pretty major contribution to society.
Mm-hmm. Well, they named the scientist on Futurama after him.
Is that it? There's our second episode.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, we try to find perhaps not forgotten but unsung.
Yes, unsung
Scientists. All right, so unsung scientists, just job descriptions.
I can tell you there's a lot of female unsung scientists.
Absolutely.
One of the famous ones being, what's her name? Rosalind. The one, she was a crystallographer and was actually sort of considered to be the real impetus between the Watson and Crick DNA helix stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of really cool stories like that out there. There's entire websites devoted to it. I can probably find one.
I'm really liking that name has the title of the segment. It was put on a big graphic. What's your name?
Yes. What's his name? Did that thing?
Exactly. Okay. So I think that's good for now in terms of potential segments. So look for unsung folks, either now or classical. Or I keep saying classical, but I guess in the past or recent past, and more recent, like today, people are just telling us, what their jobs are. What it means to be a scientist, all the things it could mean to be a scientist. Whether it's being in the Galapagos Islands or even just sitting around trying to make stuff up,
sure.
trying to figure out where science is going to take us in the next 10, 20 years. I mean, I would say science fiction writer is an actual job, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, it's a job.
All right, I like that. Okay, so let's move on to casting. Sorry. I will say, I reviewed the videos I made with Frank last night, and I've heard myself do karaoke, and I feel I'm perhaps not the best person to be the host of this on an ongoing basis. So just put that in the back of your heads. Do you guys know anyone that would actually want to be a host of a web show, or they may or may not need to know any science? I had no problem writing scripts ahead of time. But just keep that in the back of your head. The biggest concern for me is panelists. Do you think we should be looking for a revolving thing, or the same folks week in and out? Should I be trying to find slots? Okay, here's our marine biologist. Here's our oh my god, I can never put yours into words, Matt. Here's our sea urchins that grow limbs guy.
Yeah, that's kind of mixing two of my careers together. But yeah, as a developmental biologist.
Thank you. You think I remember that? I mean, that's nice and easy. I mean, you still have to explain what it means, but at least the words are easily come to mind. So what makes sense to you guys? Should we try to find a giant stable of folks that we can rotate so none of you have to do it more than a week out of a month or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because also, too, that'll keep it dynamic for the people who tune in. Like, if, some kid watches it and is like, oh my god, these panelists suck, right, then they'll know that next week that there'll be maybe some of the same, some of it's going to be different, and it'll be a different topic as well. So I think, even I think, I don't know, it's up to you guys, even the host, I think, could rotate as well.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. And plus, having more panelists and having them rotate gives fresh ideas, fresh points of view, and helps you get helps the people watching get exposed to a broader knowledge base.
Okay, down that path then, is it? What do you think of the idea of making a panelist one of the hosts for that week? We have 4 panelists that week. One of them is designated host, and then next week we have 4 different people. Another panelist being hosts, or should we keep the host and panelist positions separate for the week?
Well, I'm guessing the host is just gonna act like a moderator and just sort of corral all the panelists.
Right. That's just kind of like make one of the panelists, moderate themselves, which probably isn't the best idea in terms of moderators. Okay.
Well,
So
I
I
mean,
need a separate table of hosts and a separate table of panelists.
well, and the other thing is, we can feel free to keep it fluid towards the beginning and see something's going to emerge as, oh, this works and that doesn't. And if we play it by ear and just sort of, well, you know what? These three people make really good moderators. These other ones don't. And so maybe they can be our recurring hosts. Or this one person,
Yeah.
will seem to like it when he's the host or she's the host or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess just I caution open-mindedness.
Oh, I'm always very open-minded, and I don't think my philosophy a lot, but it's basically that the world seems to be gone along pretty well since I got here. So the idea that I know better than everyone else that's come before is kind of ridiculous. So how do we keep an open mind? Let's see. Okay. There's some segments ideas, some panelists. Do you guys know anyone you guys want to recruit for either position?
I'll put the word out. I've got a wide array of scientist friends online and in life. Sure.
You kept some people in your Rolodex? That's nice.
Yeah, no, same thing. I can put a call out on social media. I have a lot of science followers. So.
Great. Is that something we should do now, or should we try to knock out a few pilot episodes to see what we're doing, or should we start just adding people now and seeing what form it takes?
That's a good point. I can probably recruit some people in my department here, some grad students. I don't know if any of the profs would. Actually, my supervisor might, but I can do some word of mouth things as well. Keep it down low until kinks are worked out, and then if it's we get a system going, then I can put a call out on social media.
Okay. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'll put a private mention out to 2 or 3 friends, and then we can do a couple of test rounds, and then if we can post a link to something, like say, hey, all my scientist friends, I'm doing this web panel thing. You can check out a test video of it on YouTube here. Is this something you'd be interested in participating in periodically? And then that would make it easier. That's where I'm going with it.
Okay. All right. So I think it has some place to go. So it sounds like at the very least you two are so interested in trying to push this forward and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Albert has a director. I need to practice a lot more because I think we've been staring at a static 15 minutes of Kyoko. So I might need to edit that video a little bit.
I think there's a way in settings, so what mine does is whoever is talking is the main person, and it senses it automatically.
It does, and we tried that yesterday, and it's kind of cool. It also picks up like every giggle, every cough, every like snort. Like it cuts to whoever made whatever the loudest noise is at that particular moment in time. So I'll probably go back and forth. Because right now I'm just staring at us. So.
Okay, but that's it. I've seen other Google live streams of Google Hangouts with panels, and it's also the panelists that get used to it and like stick their head under their desk if they're going to sneeze or something like that to try and not make them jump up when they're in the middle of someone else is talking.
All right. Well, let me see if I can make that change now. I don't know if I can. All right, I need to be something like a master for the next time around. Because I know that option exists. I just figure out how to enable it. Clearly, I have a lot to learn. Okay. Anyway, in the meantime, I did promise a time of discussion. I thought there'd be twice as many of you here, but that's okay.
Okay.
So let me get to my notes. And clearly, I'm expecting to do a lot of editing when we do this. Oh, screw the notes. Okay. Anyway.
Screw the notes. Love it.
Screw the notes. So basically what I want to talk to you all about, or what I want you also to talk to me about, 2 of you,
sure,
is you've probably been aware, I know Matt has, there's a show up there called Orphan Black. Between seasons, I see you've heard of it, Kyoko, right?
Yeah, I've watched 2/3 of the first season, and
Fantastic.
I need to finish it.
Fantastic. So you're aware of the gist of it, that basically it's a show about clones. Hope I'm giving away too much to anyone out there, but it's clones. And the talented Lana Maslany plays, a dozen clones, many of them through a second episode, sometimes less. And I really want to talk to you today about then is one of the clones in particular is Cosima, who has turned out to be homosexual. So Matt, let's start with you.
Sure.
Looking at genetic clones of each other, or what we understand to be clones, what are the chances that one of a dozen people of the same genetic material are going to be homosexual and the rest aren't?
Well, I don't know no one knows for sure the actual scientific basis for homosexuality, but from everything that I've read, it has mostly to do with the body's ability to, or not, what level of hormones the brain receives and the body receives during development and throughout life. And so mutations that affect the brain's ability to process or receive certain hormones has been sort of observationally or anecdotally observed to modify sexual activity. There have been mutations introduced in mice that change the body's ability to receive certain hormones, and that makes the female mice act like males in terms of aggression and sexual behavior. So it all boils down to hormone levels, if that's the case. And in that respect, clones, you could give them across the whole rainbow gamut continuum of sexual identity just based on what level of hormone they're exposed to during gestation. Now, I know that the show, and this isn't really spoilery for the show, especially since we're now almost in season 3, the show basically said that the embryos were all cloned and then implanted in different mothers. And so that's going to give you different epigenetic changes based on the gestation. It's going to give you different hormone levels based on gestation, based on the mother's activity, diet, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. So absolutely, you can have clones of different sexual identity just based on the way the show was laid out. That is my understanding of it.
Well, Kyoko, next part then is for you. One of the clones has also turned out to be transgendered. Is that really kind of the same mechanism that Matt's talking about? That sexuality itself would be kind of determined at some point by the hormone level. Is that really how it works for gender identity? Or do you see that Mother Nature provides a mechanism for maybe not having a set gender identity for a set of genetic material?
I agree with Matt that a lot of it is we don't have a purely scientific understanding of why people are transgender or why they are gay. But one of the other important thing along with things like hormones and development and those sort of aspects is the interaction with your environment. So since each of these clones were reared with a different mother and is exposed to different environmental factors, both social and abiotic, just simply different air conditions and stuff like that, that's going to interact with your genetic material. And so it's completely feasible, in my opinion, that, as Matt was saying, with even though you have genetic clones, that they can end up, and so they might look identical, they can have very different personal identities.
Okay, so it looks like they're gonna be okay with the presentation of gender and sexuality. Let me ask you this: having watched Orphan Black, what do you think is the most egregious science error that they're trying to push has science to make their story work?
Oh, when I was freshly watching it, there were 2 or 3 that really jumped out at me, and now that it's been a couple months, I don't remember off the top of my head. Give me a second to think here, because there was one that really pissed me off.
Well, we can always cut out thinking time. That's not a problem. You have a moment as well, too, Kyoko, or do you feel like you've seen enough of the show to?
No, I'm trying to recall too as well.
Yeah. So you said you can always edit out thinking time. Do you have time to edit out me binge watching season 2 again to find out what that was?
Well, we can come back later. Just be sure you're wearing the same shirt.
Right. Exactly.
Trim the beard.
Yeah, same haircut, all that kind of stuff. Oh God, and it was really egregious too. It was like 3/4 of the way through season 2. Oh, and I don't remember.
Yeah, I haven't even seen season 2.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the idea, though, of human clones is a pretty large leap at this point in time in technology and scientific research. I mean, the most famous clone has been Dolly the sheep so far, and
right.
That's one organism, one clone. Not counting things like bacteria and yeast and things that reproduce asexually. Talking about diploid organisms here, complex organisms like us. So that in itself, at the moment, is still a pretty large leap of scientific faith, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely, and the show is portraying it that this combination of the military and a private biotech firm generated these clones in the late 70s, early 80s, And if you think about where biological understanding of genetics was back then, and embryology and so on, it's a strong leap. I mean, to be able to say that they've got a pool of 75 clones of this one girl right now that are maybe 2 years old, I could see that saying, and you could get away with that and say, oh well, have been some recent advances that the military has kept private and not revealed to the public. I could see that, but to say that they were able to do it 30 years ago and get it right, I'm not buying it. I remembered what the egregious error was. Okay, so this will be a bit spoilery for mid-season 2. Kyoko, if you care, you can mute me. If you don't care, listen.
Oh, I have no problem with spoiler.
Okay, there was Cosima is getting very ill, and they discovered that they could treat her by giving her stem cells from the main character's daughter, Kira, and so they give her they get a baby tooth from the girl. They grow up a stem cell population from this, and they inject Cosima with it. Okay, first and foremost, you do not want to inject stem cells into a living person. I mean, injecting stem cells into a mouse is the test for whether or not those cells are cancerous, whether or not those cells can actually be viable stem cells. If it grows a giant tumor, then they know it's a stem cell. So you don't want to inject undifferentiated stem cells into somebody willy-nilly. But the second problem I had with that was they inject it with the stem cells, and then they say, but that's our only dose because it's a finite supply. And I'm thinking to myself, you do not understand the very definition of the word stem cell. It is self-renewing. It is, by definition, an infinite supply. Because if it's finite, it's no longer a stem cell. So I understood plot-wise for the show why they needed to have this medication. But to say that it was a stem cell with a finite supply, I lost all credibility in the science. So,
speaking of unsung scientific heroes, you would know much more than I would about this, but I remember reading a while back that for a long time, like the one supply of cells they had was from some woman that died like 3 or 4 years ago. They kept replenishing. Does that ring a bell?
I think you're talking about the HeLa cell line.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, Henrietta Lacks. I believe that was in the 50s or the 60s that she.
Right. Is that right to the level of unsung hero or?
I think that goes to the level more of a disconnect mentally between of scientists of the era and even today between what is good for science and what the layperson actually understands of science and how they will receive that information. I haven't written about it.
You don't want to bring up because it might shed a perhaps less than positive light on scientists in general.
Well, you know what? The best way of people interested in things is to expose the seedy underbelly anyway. I mean, if we whitewash and make everything about science seem hunky-dory and lovely and whatever, we might get kids interested in it, but then once they get started and they see it's not the pristine utopia we talked about, that may disillusion them even more. So you want to make sure we're presenting a clear and concise picture. And also, showing it warts and all might interest teens to say, you know what, well, I want to help make that a better thing. I want to help improve that. So I have no problem with exposing any kind of blemishes in science's history, either ethical or PR. Mm-hmm. And I think this is more, the story of Henrietta Lacks in this case is more a case of scientists not understanding how the world views science or understands it to the lay people. And to fill in, Kyoko, I'm sorry if I'm speaking over you at all or dominating the conversation. Feel free to butt me out.
Editing.
You two, we go. So Henrietta Lacks was a woman. I'm trying to remember the Terry Gross interview from Fresh Air with the author of her biography, but I believe she was African American from the South, and she had cancer, and so doctors were trying to treat her cancer, and they took skin samples from her, or cell samples. I can't remember what type of cells, and then they immortalized those in culture. And basically, what that means is they took the cells and they were able to get the cells to grow in a petri dish, and the cells continued to grow in the petri dish, and they were able. This was from the 50s or 60s. People still have those cells growing today in petri dishes, and all over the world. those cells have propagated all over the world. And what was interesting and prevalent specifically about this case was that was one of the first times that people were able to actually keep a cell line dividing in a petri dish. And so scientists used that as a tool. Look, we have human cells we can grow in a dish. We can learn so much about human biology based on these cells. And so they took that and they ran with it. No one gave two thoughts to the fact that, well, you know what? These cells came from a living, breathing woman who passed away from her disease. She had a family, and the family don't know that these cells are dividing. When this journalist or author finally went to the family and said, "Hey, did you know that they have these cells?" They were freaking out, saying, "Oh my God, a part of my mother is still alive somewhere," thinking that there was some zombified arm of her floating around somewhere. And so it wasn't well explained to them what a cell was, how a cell survived, and how we can't get your mother back from this. You know, this isn't a living, conscious part of her identity, but it's some of her skin is still growing, or her cells rather. And so that was not really that wasn't handled well initially, and it wasn't handled well down the line. And it just sort of made a big public splash recently with this biography of Henrietta Lacks that came out.
Yeah, so can I just jump in? It's a really wonderful book. It's called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and it's by Rebecca Skloot. And it's very well written, and she did a really, really good job of sort of presenting both sides, working with the family to help them understand exactly what the HeLa cells were or are, and it's really quite a lovely book. If you guys have the time, I highly recommend you read it.
All right, thank you, Kyoko. I know I took us a little bit abroad there, but anybody have any other thoughts you want to get out about Orphan Black?
Mm.
The main actress is amazing.
Absolutely, she deserves
I agree.
award ever.
All right, so moving on then, is that kind of segment something we want to keep including? Do we want to do like a science and popular culture segment, or is that kind of like just fluff that kind of detracts from what we're aiming for the purpose to be?
No, I think that makes it relatable. I think that's one of the more important segments to have.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I don't know if you guys remember when Prometheus came out. I mean, the science community, there were a lot of blog posts hacking the science of Prometheus, and it was really kind of fun. So, you know, and it's a way for kids to understand that science is a part of everyday life. It's not just, you know, the ivory tower thing that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Very fantastic. That brings you to the end of my agenda. By all means, if maybe you guys want to toss something in, any other thoughts at this time?
Yeah, Rico, I would suggest just the panelists or whatever you're going to talk about, that the people know ahead of time so they can prepare or have an idea of what kind of answer. Like, sure. It just happened to be that I do know about HeLa cells and cloning, but if it had been something more, you know, developmental.
I haven't met you guys before. I'll admit though, I was going back and forth on that. I didn't know. I was trying to avoid having you guys come in with a canned response. Like, I don't want you walking blind completely, not knowing at all what I was going to throw at you. I also wanted to be like, okay, here's the question. Here's what I thought about yesterday. Let me read you my paragraph on that statement.
Right. Right.
But if you prefer, I guess more. I mean, do you think it makes for a better, you know, I guess, a better flow of discussion for me to actually give you the questions ahead of time?
Maybe not the questions. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Not the questions ahead of time, but the topic.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to be able to just to refresh my memory or teach myself some things about the topic so that I don't sit here like a pump on a log saying, well, I don't know, you guys talk. Or even worse, spouting my mouth off, not knowing a damn thing I'm talking about, and coming off like a blowhard idiot.
That's the best to get on the screen. You just spout whatever comes to your mind, but I do appreciate that. I want the panel to be comfortable, so yeah, okay. I'll be less abstract about what I'm going to ask you ahead of time. Like I said, this time, I mean, I did know you guys kind of specialties and there's something that's going to be in your neighborhood.
So, Rigo, let me talk past you to Kimiko for the moment. Or Kyoko. I'm sorry, Kyoko. I keep getting your name wrong, and I apologize.
No worries.
It's mostly just because I haven't met you in person yet, and I'm horrible with names. But I heard you mention that you were a field biologist, and I'm just curious where you are, what you do. Tell me about yourself.
So, in a nutshell, I am in evolution and ecology, and I look at rapid adaptation, so adaptation that we can observe within our lifetimes.
Okay.
And I focus on variation in the selective pressures that act on that adaptation.
Sure.
So, my PhD thesis is on the Trinidadian guppy and the male guppy color.
Okay.
And I'm also starting to work a little bit more in behavior. So I'm hoping for postdoctoral research to do some anti-predator behavior in the Darwin's finches,
Cool.
and look at maybe the genetic basis and the hormonal basis for differences in the anti-predator behavior. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, the impetus being that there's some islands that have cats and invasive predators and others that don't.
Right.
And these islands are renowned for the animal naivete, right? Where you can like walk up to the animals or you have to step over them if they're long across the pathway or something like that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So that's my stuff in a nutshell. How about you? You were developmental with sea urchins?
Well, never urchins. I did my thesis sort of half and half. I worked a bunch on mice and chicks looking at limb development, and then I left that and I looked at notochord development in sea squirts, so cyanointestinalis. And then from there I did a postdoc in sea anemones looking at regeneration.
Cool.
So, yeah. So I just spent like 5 years cutting sea anemones in half and watching them grow back. It was very fun.
Thanks. I think it was a pretty productive session. And hopefully I can cut that down to 5 minutes or something.
Sure.
So again, I'm about to sign off, but anything else that you guys want to throw out there as part of this project, or really just want to get off your chest? I'm happy to listen.
Okay. I've got this thing on my foot. If you want to look at it.
Just hold it to the camera.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, like I said, everything's gonna go on YouTube. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Does time work for you? I'm also thinking about, well, I probably will do a time on Saturday just to see what other people I get at that time.
Sure.
Does this time of day kind of work well for you guys?
Yeah, generally for me, it's good. I'm on the East Coast.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, and it's fine for me too. Well, it depends on the day, but today works, and I'll figure out a way to get my microphone to work.
And for my part, I'm going to try to come up with a better studio than the blinds behind me. I actually had to move already because the first place I picked was this horrible backlighting. So hopefully I guess I'm going to design a nice, snappy, banner to be behind me. That's what it matters because we're going to have rotating panelists anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to send, like a blanket to everyone who wants to participate to hang behind them during the shoot.
Yeah, send us all a green screen.
There you go. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all for participating, and I'm signing off. And I'll let you know. Like I said, I'm going to do some editing, especially with that popular culture part, just to kind of see how it looks like on screen. All right. And I'll let you know that is also put on our private YouTube channel.
Awesome.
All right.
It was a
See you all later. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.